We're back. Sorry about the technical delay there, folks, but when you're filming remotely, shit happens. So we were talking about PHASA and bashing the shit out of down, and Wayne was, so bring us back up to speed with exactly why they're such douchebags again, Wayne.
No, look, like I say, I'm not affiliated to them and stuff like that. I just did it.
For the people that don't know what we're talking about with PHASA, PHASA, and there's another group called Custodians in South Africa that are essentially, they're a legislative body made up of a membership group to facilitate and help outfitters and hunters.
Bullshit.
Well, on paper, that's what they're set out to do.
Yeah, so I remember the comments on it. It was actually the podcast you did with Jonathan McHugh. So I hunted for Jono way back in 2016, just after I had that client screw me out and I was on the bones of my ass. And I actually, it's a funny story. I reached out to Jono on a Facebook post. And at the time, no one wanted to hire me as, like I said, there's this whole thing of, I don't know if they scared I'm going to steal clients or people are nervous about what I do or say, but I'm just honest and straightforward. And Jono put a post out there looking for a young PH to apprentice, hit me up. And I was doing handyman work at the time. And I sent him a message and he actually replied back to me. He says, Wayne, you're too qualified for this position. I said, but I will take anything you offer right now. I need to do some work to help me get through this whole mission. And that's how I met Jono, and Jono and I got on really, really well. He's actually my MC at my wedding. And he was on your podcast, and I made sure I watched that one because him and I had the same understanding and very similar views when it came to a lot of the hunting industry things. And I think in that podcast, if I'm not mistaken, was related to the quality of the PHs in South Africa more recently, and that the qualification standards have been junk. And I hopped on there and I said, well, hit me up. I'll tell you about how our what's it called, qualifications had to be back in the day to what the guys were doing now to become registered PHs. And PHASA was jumping up and down going, oh, our PHs are all top rank and blah, 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 blah. They part of other PH schools and stuff like that. I got a guy that I know who's just recently done his, I'm not going to mention names, at a PH school. And there, when we used to do ours, it was 10 days intense. You had to go, obviously, do all the rifle stuff, the skinning, the catering, the hosting, all the government legislation papers, the exams and stuff. So the way the PH thing was set up back then was for like farmers, outdoor people to do an intense 10-day course, and then they could be registered with the government as a professional hunter in the Eastern Cape. And the PH schools over the years have literally basically printed money and took money for teaching these guys absolutely fuck all. And they go out into the world as PHs, bragging that they're PHs, and they don't know what they're doing. I myself, when I went out, I was an avid hunter. I was a lot older. We could only register as 21. I was 24, 25 at the time. So I had a bit more sense between my ears because obviously you're dealing with a lot older client demographic because it's all retired guys, businessmen. So in my opinion, young oaks shouldn't be doing it. They should be apprenticing until they've got a bit between their ears. And yeah, PHASA was bragging at how good the South African PH is. Yeah, the older generation guys are brilliant. There's no doubt about it. There are some really top-notch old school PHs that everyone should still learn from. But what the South African PH schools are pumping out now is absolute rubbish because a guy will get there, pay his fee. He's going to write the government exams. All he has to do is actually pass the government exams at the end of the day. And if you're good enough at reading legislation and regurgitating it back on the paper, you will pass as a PH. Whether you actually know what you're doing in the bush or not is a different story. And these guys were getting away with it. And I think that's where the conversation came up with PHASA. And I said, I think in my comment, PHASA in their babble bullshit again, saying, this is, we got the, defending the PHs. Yes, defend those that are good at it, but guys, there's a lot of shit that's coming out there, and that's straight up. And you'll see it in the industry. You'll see it on social media. Social media wasn't a big part of it back in the day. So it's all your shitty stuff is aired now. And you'll see it in the quality of the animals. And unfortunately, the client doesn't know, what's quality and what's not. Your pH is supposed to. Your pH is supposed to determine between a, a quality trophy, or even better, determine between a male and female animal. I had guys in my class that couldn't distinguish between the two on a freaking blessed buck. They shot the wrong animals and they still passed their pH score to guide clients. And to me, that's bullshit. There was one guy who couldn't even shoot the target at 25 yards, and he licensed as a professional hunter. So they mustn't go, South African PHs. Yes, there are the good ones, the guys that grew up on the farm, that have gone through basically what your guys' Hunter Ed program, where we've got mentors, our fathers, our grandfathers, or friends of our father, or whatever, that mentored us correctly. And then we went and did the government stuff that we know what to do with clients, with the legal side of things. But the practical side of it, guys were passing and they were absolutely dog shit.
Yeah, and just to kind of recap, remember, so Jono, when we did the Jono podcast, we actually did it from Kentucky. So it was our first and only podcast that we did remotely from Kentucky. You're actually the second, so it's cool, that worked out. But as part of that, I was telling John, by that point in time, you guys had already been to South Africa, and I started bringing groups. But I'd been for a lot of years and gone through that process. And man, I had some shitty fucking PHs. Like I had some very good PHs, but I also had some very shitty PHs that I wouldn't smack in the ass if they were on fire. Like, it would not throw a bucket of water on them, put them out. I mean, that kind of shit you've got. And so in the pot thing, full disclosure, like I bought into the PHASA thing, and with Tony DeBrain and Randy Bass's-Rod and all those guys, right? I bought into their bullshit. And then really when I started releasing those episodes too, people were reaching out like, hey, there's way more of the story. You need to look back at what happened and why, why a big part of the membership group broke off and created custodians because of the CVL deal and all the other bullshit. And the more and more I've looked into it, and the more I've actually been involved with other people that have had issues, that fucking organization is not what people think it is.
Yeah.
And it, my membership, Saltlick, we called our membership a year ago, and if you think that organization is there to help you if shit hits the fan in South Africa when you're on a safari, I got news for you. It's fucking horseshit. They're not going to do anything. You're fucking bullshit. Yeah, they're going to make themselves look good and try to make PHs that are registered with PHASA look good. They don't give a flying they don't give a flying fuck about the consumer. And unfortunately, if you don't take care of the consumer, which are international hunters, there's a fucking problem. And it may not be this week or next week, but with all these fucking lawsuits coming down and all, look at all everything that's coming out, man. Yeah. So you literally just got to do a suit in my hand right now. Shit's just coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
So
like with PHASA, I've never been a member. I've got other family members who've been PHs far longer than me. I've got an uncle who's one of the old school, back in the day where they started, who isn't, I still think now he's not a member. Like my cousin's part of SCI and Dallas and those type of things, but they're not members of PHASA. And all the guys that I looked up to, and PHASA put out something that we all had to put a panic in all the PHs. There was this video going around that you had to become accredited with PHASA, and you had those PHs who haven't done this accreditation and this PHASA exam are going to be no longer registered PHs. And I reached out to a bunch of older PHs, and I said to them, I said, well, guys, what are you going to do about this? Are we all paying to go back to school, to go repay for something that we've done already to get this other accreditation? So they basically wanted from my understanding, I could be completely wrong, they wanted our PH license as having a PH to be a diploma and I think noticed out of overseas that you are a registered professional hunter. As from my understanding, and I've got a buddy who's running a place in Spain. He opened up an outfitting business because he wasn't going to buy property in South Africa and open up one here. He didn't do any damn exams, and he's a professional hunter in Spain. Yet he's got a South African PH. That didn't help him jack shit. And PHASA was pushing this narrative that all these people, and it got a lot of people in panic, and they went and did this whole exam. It's never ever materialized. I think it was 2 years ago this thing came out, and it's never materialized. So I think they push people to go pay for that shit, and they don't need it because I'm registered with the government. All I need is my government outfitter's license and my government professional hunter's license, and keep that valid and do the number of hunts I need to do in 3 years to keep the license going. That's what I need. I don't need a certificate from an affiliation. And then the other thing with PHASA is I went on there because at one stage also I wanted to join because everyone had these memberships. And I'm like, okay, well, what do we get out of the memberships? So you can pay if you're an under 21 PH a certain amount. If you're over 21, this. If you're a registered outfitter, you have to pay this. So I can't even pay as a PH. I got to pay the outfitter fee because I'm a registered outfitter. And what we were having to pay didn't make mathematical sense to me to pay that yearly because what do you actually benefit or gain out of it? So, like, I got a good couple of buddies. We talk about COVID and stuff. A couple of really good PA.
We're back. Sorry about the technical delay there, folks, but when you're filming remotely, shit happens. So we were talking about PHASA and bashing the shit out of down. And Wayne was, so bring us back up to speed with exactly why they're such douchebags again, Wayne.
No, look, like I say, I'm not affiliated to them and stuff like that. It didn't make mathematical sense for me as a small outfitter to outlay that money yearly to be part of the affiliation and be put onto their list of outfitters on their website. When I pay enough money to have my own damn website, I run my own social media stuff. So I wasn't really going to gain anything out of it. So definitely not part of it. You know what I mean? And like I say, I know a lot of buddies of mine and stuff that when COVID hit, they were left to their own devices. Most of them aren't PHs anymore. Some guys left the country because at that time when you've got these affiliations, you'd expect them to try and help some way or the other, especially if there are guys paying every year for how many years to be members. So, like I said, I'm definitely not one to be, I'm not one of the sheep to follow the rest of the herd. Look my own direction, I get on with it.
I don't want to go back to that, but and these are all issues that are clearly South African. And I want to preface to the people that are watching Americans, we preach, we love South Africa, we go every year. These are kind of internal issues that South Africans and South African PHs deal with and shit. By no means the spas or custodians, whatever they do, they're not going to dictate the time you had there. That's for people that have been there for years and kind of dive into the politics behind the scene. South Africa is safe. Go to South Africa, hunt. We dive into some of the political shit there, but we still go every year. So if we thought it was unsafe, we would not go. We know it's safe because we bring groups every year and we still love the country. It's no different than our country. If you look at our politics, shit, there's shit that happens here that we absolutely hate and we can't stand for, and we don't stand for, and we don't get behind those people or those organizations. So it's the same thing there. So anybody watching, don't take this as, don't go to South Africa because you just trashed this group. PHASA doesn't have a fucking thing to do with hunting South Africa. No. You don't have to be affiliated with them. And you may go there and hunt 12 years in a row. You may never hear the name even fucking mentioned. Period. That's irrelevant.